I asked you guys in a poll the other day what type of video you wanted to see next. You all overwhelmingly told me you wanted a video on how to use training mode better. So I began to write down every piece of advice I could think of on a new Google Doc. Things like learning better combos, okizeme, and identifying patterns. I have a lot to say on the topic of training. Way more than I thought would work for a single video. So, instead, I've decided to make this a series. Welcome to the dojo. I'm YohDood, and this is our new series, How to Train Your Street Fighter. Episode 1, Training Mode Functionality. This first part of our guide is to understand the tool that is training mode itself, what every setting is, and what it's used for. We'll be using Xbox controller layouts because that's what I play on. With that said, let's begin with the basic settings. On Xbox, the shoulder buttons, LB and RB, can be pressed together to get back to this menu at any time while paused. Using LB or RB separately will navigate through the various submenus. We'll go through every one of them in this video. Save the current status of training, exactly how it is. This feature will mostly be used as a means to grind faster. However, it's not important for many scenarios in training. Find a curated list of options unique to your character. Specials, supers, unique attacks, and common universal moves can all be found in the command list for every character. Change your button layout to fit your needs. This menu won't allow you to turn off features like changing between modern and classic controls or button release inputs, better known as the negative edge. This menu allows you to set macros for training. Set a function button to have on-command ways to reset the save status, switch the dummy settings for blocking and counters, or even quickly record routes for the dummy to take. This feature isn't too important to know how to use properly, but if you're going to use this setting, I would suggest creating a new controller preset and then replace your designated drive impact button with the function button. This setting will only be important to dig into if you're playing on PC or have an issue with your audio or video specifically. Most other problems you could be facing can find solution in other menus. Bring your training mode settings back to their defaults. This setting should only be used if you can't troubleshoot why interactions are happening the way they are and desperately need to fix them. View the tutorials menu. Selecting a tutorial will take you out of the training mode, but there is a lot of vital information to learn from the devs themselves. I encourage a watch now and then. Use this setting to search for online matches via ranked or casual match, and continue to train while you wait. Bring yourself out of training to the character select screen. There's not much reason to use this feature outside of hearing the banger music on this menu. If you're completely done training for the time being, use Mode Select if you want to go into Arcade Mode, the Battle Hub, or World Tour Mode. These settings specifically change the environment of the fight, position, character, stage selection, and even the music you're listening to. Refresh training mode with whatever settings you've chosen between starting from mid-screen or either corner of the stage. Select to be either on the left or right side of the screen as training mode is reset. You can also adjust the game's speed as well. Just whatever settings you mess with, do not adjust the input delay. Bypass going to the character select screen every time with the character select settings. Here you can quickly change characters for you or the training dummy, switch between classic and modern controls, or swap out your button layout for a different preset you've changed in the control settings earlier. Just remember, you have to confirm your selection and not back out of the menu. I do that a lot. These settings are only available if they apply to your character. They are used to change the current state of your character. You can set things like Manon's medal rank or Jamie's drink level here to a default so you don't have to waste time getting them back to that point every time you reset the room. This is a cosmetic setting, allowing you to change up the stage and battle music without needing to leave the training mode. These settings will determine how the dummy is positioned. Choose who controls the dummy character. At default, the dummy is controlled by nothing. They will be an unmoving punching bag for the player to train your movement, spacing, and combos. Alternatively, you may have the CPU control the dummy. This will give you the ability to train against seemingly random commands and check your spacing against a moving opponent without fighting a real person. Arguably, the best way to train is if you have a partner of equal skill. That will help you bounce ideas off each other and give you a better understanding of each other's characters. Next, we'll discuss the programmable behaviors you can set the dummy at its default. This setting will not be active if the CPU or player 2 is in control of the dummy. The dummy will stay in a neutral standing stance. The dummy will crouch low to the ground. The dummy will constantly jump as soon as they're able. These settings will change the counter state of the dummy, simulating different scenarios in a motionless state. Simulates a fresh hit as if your opponent didn't block without pressing any buttons. Simulates a hit that stops an opponent's attack on startup. This allows you more hit stun, allowing for more damaging combos or better Okizeme. Simulates a hit on the opponent's attack's recovery. This allows you even more hit stun and in some cases will knock your opponent into a fall state. These settings will change the block state of the dummy, simulating different scenarios in a motionless state. The dummy just doesn't block. Use this to train your combos. The dummy will block literally everything. Use this to train adding throws to your game plan. The dummy will block a set number of attacks. Use this to test offensive pressure. The dummy will block when able after being hit. Use this for combo training. These settings target specific block settings for the dummy. Change the number of attacks the dummy will block before being hit. The dummy blocks low even when standing, or overheads when crouching by switching their position when it's applicable to do so. You may also use this feature to have the dummy only block high, low, or randomize the setting for more detailed hit confirm training. Change whether the dummy blocks, parries, or perfect parries your attacks. This will mostly be used for frame data. Change the settings of the dummy's drive reversal. Change the delay the dummy will do the drive reversal by frame count. Change the number of attacks the dummy will block before using the drive reversal. Change whether or not the dummy will escape throws. Change how the dummy will recover from a knockdown. The dummy will either recover in place, roll, or be set to random. These settings allow you to record the dummy in any way you want them to. You can later replay your recordings to act against them. This is where all the recording is done. You can record 8 separate slots per character. Simply select a slot to record what actions you want the dummy to do. Selecting a recording slot that already has data in it will replace the recording with the new recording. You can press the select button to erase a slot from this menu. Change the settings for the recording itself. This will not change any of your recordings. Set the game to record as soon as you select the available slot, or to trigger once an input has been pressed, have the game give you a countdown before you begin recording. This menu allows you to play back previously recorded instructions. Pressing this button will begin the playback of your recordings. If you have multiple recordings toggled on at once, then the dummy will shuffle between the options available to them at random. Toggle the information display for what recording slot is currently being used. Best to turn it off if you're trying to practice your reactions. Choose whether or not the recording will replay once finished. The best recordings are the ones you can loop or easily recreate. Remember, the key to making good recordings is to be very specific with what you want to practice against. Start simple and gradually work your way up to more complex and difficult scenarios. Learn how to get out of a bad spot, work on your fundamentals, and understand what moves are punishable. These settings change how the dummy will respond on reversal or the first available frame to them after certain conditions are met. Change how the dummy responds after being knocked down. These actions can be toggled off and on to allow for customization. You can also change the frequency they are done or the delay of the reversal itself to simulate a more human approach, a good tool for learning proper mix-ups. Change how the dummy responds after blocking an attack. These actions can be toggled off and on to allow for customization. You can also change the amount of attacks the dummy will block before responding or the delay of the reversal itself. Change how the dummy responds after taking damage. These actions can be toggled off and on to allow for customization. You can also change the delay of the reversal like you can for wake up and block reversals as well. These settings change parts of the game related to but are outside of the characters themselves. Change the amount of health either player start with. You'll mostly use this tool to test damages for critical arts over level 3 supers. You can also change how they recover. Choose between the match standard, delayed recovery, or none at all. Change the amount of drive gauge either player starts with. You can change how this recovers over the match standard, delayed recovery, or permanently set it to never change. Change the amount of super meter either player starts with. You can change how this recovers over the match standard, delayed recovery, or no recovery. These settings are designed to help you sleuth out why a particular setup, input, or string doesn't work. These settings will help you understand Street Fighter VI's inner workings. Do be careful using these, however, because they can bog down the learning experience if too much is turned on at once. This setting displays each attack for both characters, its damage, combo scaling, full combo damage, and the type of attack between high, low, overhead, jump in, or throw. This setting is located just below the timer and can be toggled off and on if it gets in your way. This tool is your best friend. When learning something new, if you want to know why your combo is dropping, the input history never lies to you. It's positioned on the far left and far right side of the screen for players 1 and 2 respectively. It can be toggled on and off for only one player or both. This tool displays the last 19 inputs executed by the player controlling the character. I'll go into the notation for each input image now. The N stands for neutral. It simply means the character is not moving as the stick is in a neutral position. This will generally be the first input displayed. The number beside the input is a frame count. They display how long a button or direction has been pushed for. Useful for knowing your reaction timing. Remember that a frame is timed at 1/60th of a second. The blue punch and kick inputs are your light attacks. Bad range, fast speed, low damage. This input will just read as a blue circle if you're playing on modern controls. When pressed together, or when blue and yellow on modern, you will input a throw command. It's important to have a button dedicated to this though, as it's more reliable than pressing the separate buttons simultaneously. The yellow punch and kick inputs are your medium attacks. Decent range, decent speed, decent damage. This input will just read as a yellow circle on modern controls. When pressed together, you will input a drive parry. Modern players have a dedicated button for this. The red punch and kick inputs are your heavy attacks. Good range, slow speed, and good damage. This input will just read as a red circle on modern controls. When pressed together, you will input a drive impact. Modern players again will have a dedicated button for this. The directional arrow displays which direction the stick is being moved in. It is sometimes hard to explain motions to other players using directions like left or right, so you'll often hear terms like forward describing which direction walks towards the opponent. In my honest opinion, it'll be easier for you to learn the numeric annotation system players from most other fighting games all use to describe motion. Think of a 3x3 number grid. This system demonstrates the stick positioning to perform motion inputs. It will always rest on a number between 1 and 9, with 5 always being neutral. When using this system, it's important to remember the annotation believes you are always on the right side of the screen. 6 will always be walking towards the opponent. This system is mostly used for special input moves and specials, 6 HP, 214 LK, or 623 MP. This system also prevents weird verbiage like towards from being thrown around to mean 6 MK. For quick reference, these display settings within the input history display are for modern players only. DI refers to the drive impact button, DP, drive parry, auto refers to the auto combo button being held, SP, special move input. The frame meter breaks down an attack's frame data in a way that makes it easier to understand. That being said, this is still an advanced tool and not something to worry about too much when you're just starting out. The frame meter is located at the bottom center of the screen and can take up valuable space sometimes. For the sake of keeping this explanation brief, when you're ready to look into the frame data, check out the selection, the frame meter and you, in the simple training settings we have yet to cover. Whenever you input a special move or special input normal, the command completion display will appear near you. Whenever you input a special move, or a special input normal, the command completion display will appear near your super meter to confirm you inputted the move successfully. This isn't super necessary, but stays out of the way and can help you confirm your inputs if you're working on muscle memory. ATD will display a horizontal bar over the head of your character. After inputting an attack, the bar will fill and begin to fade. While the fill is red, you cannot execute any input pressed. Green shows when it's okay to utilize another input. This tool is specifically useful if you press buttons and some of them don't seem to ever want to come out. CTD will only display if an input is cancelable, flashing either red or blue on your character's entire model. A red flash indicates a move is fully cancelable into specials, supers, or drive rush. A blue flash means it's partly cancelable. If you want to see your inputs displayed on the screen in real time, then you should use the virtual controller. The overlay will appear just below the center of the screen to the left. Realistically, this tool is only useful for teaching or recording to show precise button press timings. These last set of settings go over the simple training presets the game has. These tools are a gateway to sharpening your fundamentals and reactions, but do keep in mind that most of these settings will override your recordings made for reuse specifically. All of these presets have a brief explanation to them before you apply them. Be sure to read the instructions well so you can make the most of your training. This practice sets the life gauge to refill automatically and the dummy set to block after taking damage, to make for the most optimal combo practice setting. This is also a great way to reset the training room if you need it. This practice sets Ryu to jump in and attack or to perform a neutral jump. The training here is to recognize when Ryu is jumping at you and stuff his attack with an anti-air. This training sharpens passive play and promotes good spacing for your character. There's also advanced options to toggle on and off in the playback settings if you want more to focus on. This practice sets Ryu to block an attack and input 5 LP occasionally. The instructions say to perform a jump in and throw to beat out his 5 LP, but this practice can also help you recognize an unsafe attack and even sniff out whiff punishes. This practice sharpens impulsive play and helps prevent spamming. This practice sets Ryu to knock you down with a sweep, then perform either a throw or another sweep. If you crouch block and input a throw as you would get hit, then you block against both. This practice sharpens reactive play, promotes good defense, and has advanced options in the playback settings. This practice is exactly what it sounds like, a standard battle against a computer opponent. This practice sharpens impulsive play and helps you get reps in on the thing you just learned to do. This practice sets Ryu to neutral jump and either perform 2 MK or 2 HK. If you stay outside of the range of his attacks, you can punish his whipped attack with an attack of your own. This practice sharpens reactive play and promotes good spacing. This practice sets Ryu to wake up with OD Shoryuken. If you throw him and simply block his wake up reversal, then he'll be wide open for a counter attack. Use this practice to learn a high damage punish combo. This practice sharpens passive play and promotes blocking. This practice sets Ryu to neutral jump and launch a drive impact at you. Respond to this with a drive impact of your own, parry, or neutral jump to avoid it entirely. This practice sharpens reactive play, promotes experimentation, and promotes a good reaction time. I mentioned this earlier in the video. It's a good reference guide to understanding the frame meter. Here's the timestamp if you want to watch that part of the video again. In the next video, we'll focus on the 3 types of play and how to practice each of them in training mode. Before we go, I need to inform you that we're coming very close to the 200 subscriber milestone. Once we reach that, we will have another 100 matches live stream, where I learn a new character and stream my first 100 matches with them. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider watching another one now.